in your piece, you talk about these two different ideas that seem potentially opposing, but I'm wondering if you see them as opposing or complementary. One is this idea that that prophetic insistence is futile, and the other is that prophetic insistence could be effective, but only if its message resonates for future generations. So I wanted to hear about whether or not you see these as two opposing ideas or two complementary ideas.
I don't think they're opposing, but it's an incredibly curious passage in the Talmud because the claim is that the Nevi'im, the prophets, who occupy an enormous, funny word, who occupy an enormous amount of space in the Tanakh, were of a piece, right, to a man and woman, were ineffective with their target audience. That not a single one of them moved, the Israelites moved in Israel one whit. And that the only thing that got us to move was a threat not from God, but a very physical, concrete threat from a guy with an army at his disposal, clearly bent on our destruction. And that actually got us to move. So there's this notion that the prophets, for all of their eloquence, are totally ineffective. Mm-hmm. But then further along the page it asks, okay, so why were they retained? Why was their message retained? And the answer is, well, only those who could be effective for the future were retained, and those who were not going to resonate with future generations were not retained. So a lot of voices come and go. But some voices are lasting voices, and they are lasting because they will be ultimately effective. So I don't think it's exactly contradictory, but it really calls into question the prospect of being effective in the moment. What is the, help me out, what's King's line about the, the urgency of now, right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Right, that's not the whole phrase, but I'm close. So
I was going to go with a totally different one, but yeah.
But do you know what I'm referring to?
Yeah, sure.
The urgency of now. And so the urgency of now, the prophets, if this has to change and this has to change now, well, it's not going to change now. And so, sadly, I think that there's some truth to that. I mean, for example, we were all so excited that in February when Mubarak was forced from office, but as we can see, and it's not really a surprise to anyone, actually bringing about democratic change in Egypt, not so easy. And then when it comes, it may not be the change we're hoping for. So the hope for a redemptive transformation right now is perhaps a vain hope, and I think that the Talmudic passage may be suggesting that. But in good Jewish fashion, it retains this ultimate hope that a day will come.
And does it say anything about or elaborate on what types of messages do resonate for the future?
So I did not study the passage to its end, so I don't know if it goes on to explicate it in that moment right there, then and there on the page. It does not.
Right. Okay, great. So, I just did an interview with Sarah, and we talked about the fact that when we wrote our pieces, the Occupy movement has been ever evolving. And, as every day or week passes, our pieces may have different meaning according to where the Occupy movement is. And given that the last few weeks have seen a lot of Occupy protesters being removed from their encampments and particular spaces, this question of resonance is becoming increasingly important. And I'm wondering if you could shed any light on your sense of what the resonant message is, and whether or not you see this message resonating for the future, in the future.
And you're asking specifically about the message of the Occupy movement. That's what you're asking,
yeah.
right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, I certainly hope it resonates. I think that America has always had, or at least in the last 130 or more years that I'm aware of, America has had an incredible fascination with wealth, with the wealthy, with glitter and glamour. In today's world with the private jet and everything, and everything that goes with it. But the notion that, this fundamental aspect of the American dream, of the idea of America, that great wealth is attainable by everyone, that social mobility is real and is available, I think that's a very fundamental, that's a core belief about what it is to be an American. And we all know deep down inside that probably it won't be us, but it really, really might be. Mm-hmm. And so I think that the dramatic extent of the inequality, the vast gap between the wealthy and everybody else, between the very wealthy and the 99%, and the growing sense that no, it's not just a glass ceiling; it's an iron ceiling, and there's no breaking through. I would like to think that is resonating. Because I think it's true. I think that what I read tells me that the prospect for just maintaining ourselves, let alone breaking through to great wealth, is diminishing for many, many people. And I hope that that's resonating. But I think that the draw of the attractiveness of the life of super wealth, and with that the belief that yes, I'm just around the corner. One turn of good luck and I'll be there too. I think that remains pretty seductive in American society.
Right. And you think that this movement has the potential to shift people's perspective on. Well,
I'm saying both. I'm expressing the hope that people are getting the message that the barriers are significant, and the gap, the distance to travel,
right,
between the burdens of breaking out of what's wrong with the middle class situation in America. I think there is growing awareness of how hard it is, but I think that my point is that the seductiveness of the dream,
right,
that social mobility nonetheless remains available, I think that seductiveness undercuts my hope anyway in the resonance of the Occupy message.
Right.
I don't know where the change really will come. Will it come in new regulatory power from Washington? I don't know. I mean, you're studying public policy. I just, I read the newspaper a lot and other stuff, and I'm not sure where the prospect for change is really possible. I know that people's disaffection is real, but I don't know where the possibility for change is really going to come from.
Right. Right. And I guess, part of what I was trying to express in my piece is, that there has been this disappointment with, attempts at policy level change, and that perhaps this voice could be a little bit of a fire. But in reality, personally, I think it kind of needs to be coming at all different levels, the policy level, the voice level in the streets, in order for it. I mean, that's how big the problem is. So, all aspects would, in my mind, would be important.
I think that's a good point. It reminds me of those efforts that are successful in public education. It's not just about, you can't define the problem with public education in very narrow terms, right? The dramatic stories of effective change in public education are the stories like what's going on in Harlem, right? At the moment, I don't recall his name, but I'm sure you know to whom I'm referring. Where it's a comprehensive assault, a comprehensive addressing of the whole social situation. And so I think you make a very good point there, that it's not about regulating banks. It's not about, I don't know. I mean, it's access to democracy.
Right. And I think you're referring to Jeffrey Canada at Harlem Children's Zone. Yeah. Great.